Are you serious? You would think there's not a chance under the sun that WWE could pull in a lower number this week than they pulled last week for their blue brand. Last week, SmackDown getting a 1.032. So you would think, you would hope that WWE saw that number, took it in, digested that number, got super pissed off at that number, and came back this week with a spark to the show, a pulse to the product. They did everything and anything under the sun to make sure viewers were watching this show. We're excited and captivated about this show. I don't care if it's delayed, taped, if it's Easter or Columbus Day, Memorial Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas, your grandmother's 95th birthday, Hanukkah, a bar mitzvah, Chinese New Year, playoffs, or the Super Bowl. I don't care. If WWE saw that their show pulled a 1.032, you would hope that would light a spark under their asses, and that they would come back this week with a vengeance. You would hope that. You would think that's the only outcome from seeing a 1.03 rating last week. So there's no way that can go lower this week. Unless the guy in charge, the person running the creative and content, is Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque McMahon. Because if that's the case, grab your coffees, because this show and this company is getting dropped on its doom piece. I have this week's number. It is in fact lower than last week somehow. And we are inching closer. Absolutely, we are inching closer to going under 1 million in viewership. Also, coming up in today's Amped Up, BC caught a little bit of Dynamite last night. I was able to catch several segments of Dynamite, not the complete show. It was 3 hours. I believe the format was the first 2 Dynamite, the third hour a Collision. And BC's thoughts on this show may not be what you were expecting. I'm just going to leave it at that for this cold open teaser. We'll talk about it coming up. And Andrade, speaking of AEW and WWE, Andrade, the mystery surrounding Andrade showing up to AEW and then all of a sudden, gone again. And now I have the latest, or at least what is being said behind the scenes, and this is just a wild situation, and I have to ask the bigger question when we talk about that coming up in today's show. I have to ask, is Andrade worth all of this? Is this another Alberto Del Rio situation? And if that's the case, Del Rio was more captivating to BC than Andrade. Whether that's a hot take or not, so be it. We're going to talk about it in this weird Andrade situation and the latest news we're hearing. And if this is accurate, this is wild, and I don't understand how this could have happened. How did WWE allow it to? And how did AEW allow this to happen? And was Andrade playing everybody? It's all coming up in today's Amped Up show with BC, Thursday, October 16 of the year 2025. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into these discussions, and we will be starting off with that SmackDown rating, you best believe, we gotta give a huge shout out to each and every subscriber to this channel. Halfway through October, and we are number 1 in the community for audience retention. Only halfway through the month, and we have the number 1 audience retention in the entire community. So that's pretty cool. What that means is you guys aren't just stopping by to listen to the podcast, to show support to the channel. into these shows just for a few sips of coffee. You're stopping by and having a whole coffee. And I think of even casual listeners and first-time listeners that are stopping by and going, hey, you know what? This dude's got it. He's good. I'm going to listen to this for a bit. Yeah, pretty damn cool, man. So again, shout out to each and every Amplified Unit member, because I can shout out all this knowledge to you guys. I can drop all these facts. We can talk about what we need to do as an industry to get better. But it takes smart, badass individuals that are willing to take that truth and have those discussions. Because most in this community, trust me, it's cookie cutter. They want everything to be sugar-coated. They want to believe that what they're watching is exactly what Cody Rhodes told them. It's the best era in wrestling. And The Rock is telling them how cool wrestling is these days. The coolest it's ever been. And Helmsley's at the podium again, telling us how much money the company's making. But it's not that way, and it takes the community being honest with these shows, with these companies, with the product that they're seeing. Only then, when you're honest with it, only then can you have the real discussions, and only then can you create the real change. So that's why I am stoked to hear that we are number one in audience retention, because that means that what we're talking about is resonating. What we're talking about is amplified truth. Pretty badass. Number one. But you know this. We fact droppers. Not some dumbass in front of a green screen giving you his wrestling opinions. Smackdown. You ready for this? Last week, SmackDown pulled a 1.032, alarming to the entire community. This week, SmackDown pulled a 1.025. You would think when you pull a 1.03 that you are doing everything under the sun to make sure that number goes up. I don't care if you're in Australia or you're producing this show in the middle of the Pacific. I don't care where you are. You could be producing this sun on Mars. I don't care. Maybe we're just cut from a different cloth. I don't know. But I do know that if I see a 1.03 and I'm the chief of creative and content, oh, that ain't happening again. I'm moving mountains. I'm moving Mars to make sure that rating goes up. I don't want to hear delayed show, tape show. I don't want to hear about holidays, championship games. I don't care about all the excuses. I don't care. It's a go-home show to Crown Jewel. It's a go-home show, and you just pulled your lowest rating ever the week previous. If that is not motivation enough, even if you are seeing results or spoilers, you make sure that those spoilers are so damn good, you have to see the show. Not highlights. Your audience shouldn't have the choice to go, oh, I'll just watch the highlights. You don't give your audience that choice. You make it so good, they have to see it. They can read about it. They can hear about it. They have to see it. I gave you my SmackDown review. I'm not going to go over it again right now, waste your guys' time or mine. Most of you have heard that review. The only one in the community to give it as honest as I gave it, and who was right when it was all said and done. It's not a pat on the back, trust me. This isn't about being right. I'm right all the freaking time. We're not happy about being right all the time on this channel. Trust me. That's what happens when you're giving facts. And you're speaking truth about what needs to be done for a better product and a better industry, is that when that doesn't happen, This is what happens. Everything we said was going to happen, happens. SmackDown is going to tank. Raw is going to tank. I've said this for years. A lot of you guys were bringing up recently, BC, you said by 2026, these were the numbers. Yeah, I was off by a few months, so actually I was wrong. They hit these record lows in even record time than BC was thinking. I was thinking early 2026, you were going to start to see these numbers. To alarming measures. And that's what you're already seeing. 1.025. Down from 1.032. If you do that again, you're at if you just lose the 800,000, what are you at? 1.017? Do that. So in 2 weeks, you're at a 1.0009. And then in 3 weeks, you would be at or under 1 million. I mean, that's how this works, right? It's called a trajectory. Now, as we get closer to Survivor Series, they're hoping they see that bump. Can they get back to 1.415, which was their old average? They're going to hope so. They're going to hope that it gets cold. All right, winter is coming. Not the AEW event. But winter is coming. People are going to get cold and want to be indoors and watch TV. They're going to hope that they turn on cable and that they can get that 1.415. I don't see them getting 1.6 anytime soon. I don't. Possibly, if it's a heavily promoted show and a show that people want to tune in for, maybe they can pop a 1.6 in the future. I don't see how. A 1.415 is the best they can ask for. Try to get back to their old average. The problem is they've been off of that for so long that your viewers are becoming accustomed to not watching. There's no more FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. That's what happens when you think you can't do without something, or you can't even think or fathom doing something. But then you start doing it, and you do it a couple more times, and you're like, oh, this is not a big deal. That's what happens when you see these numbers go from their average 1.4 to 1.5 to a 1.213, and then all of a sudden to a 1.112, and then all of a sudden about to hit 1 million. What that's telling you guys is that in the past few months, 500,000 people nearly, let's just give them 1.5 as an average, right? And they're about to hit 1 million. 500,000 people for several months now have been choosing to tune out or watch highlights because it's not worth watching the show. And even the highlights, they skim through. So they're not even watching the full highlights. Half a million people. I mean, just hearing this is unacceptable to most of you. I'm sure of that. As it is to BC, trust me. But for some reason in this company, they're too smug. They laugh it off. Oh, it's nothing. Hunter Hearst Helmsley laughs it off because there's nothing Helmsley can do about it. There's no creativity in this dude. He's not just creatively bankrupt or has become creatively bankrupt. He's always been creatively bankrupt. The company's been creatively bankrupt for a decade now. So Helmsley does nothing about it. Now on the Red brand, Netflix is furious. They're finally starting to demand they get better. I don't think Netflix understands. With this guy in charge, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, what do you think can change? There's only so much shock moments you can have, or Seth Rollins getting attacked by his own vision. Whether he's injured or not, doesn't matter. There's only so many of those things you can do. Eventually, from top to bottom, you have to have the best of creativity on these shows. Good luck with that, man. Not even 50% of these Raws are entertaining. 25%. The past several weeks, I've been telling you the best parts of Raw are 1-minute backstage segments. A couple of weeks ago, Becky Lynch beat up Maxine and Tozawa backstage for like 60 seconds. I thought it was hilarious. Last week, Kari is getting smacked again by Asuka, and Asuka screaming in her Japanese, and everything, all the acting is over the top. It's so laughably bad, it was the best part of Raw, that 60 seconds backstage. That tells you something. Nobody's tuning in to see Rusev chase around Dominic, a heel and a heel. Nobody's tuning in to see the Usos take on LA Knight and CM Punk. Faces versus faces. What is happening? Oh, are we going to see Roman Reigns chase around Bronson Reed? Are we going to see 18 Grande Macchiatos? Frappuccino, Cappuccino Grandes? What are we... You wonder why Raw's numbers are tanking, and then you flip it over to SmackDown. What is on SmackDown? I truly can't even recall what is on SmackDown. I can't even recall. The Fireball! That's right, they had a Fireball! They're hoping that when you read the spoilers and you see Fireball, or you read Fireball, you're going to want to now see the Fireball. It's something. Zelina Vega linking up with Aleister Black. I'm all for that. I thought that was actually well done. The problem is there's another hour and 45 minutes of the show you have to produce. That, not so much. Maybe there was an inkling of effort there, right, with that last man standing match. At least they didn't call it a street fight. Because there wouldn't be a street involved. So how is that a street fight? Last man standing? Guy caught a fireball to the face? Yeah, he'll probably be out for a good 10 seconds bare minimum. But it wasn't enough. They lost more viewers. This is not about holidays. It's not about championship games or playoffs. It's not about your grandmother's birthday. It's not about Chinese New Year. It's not about any of that. Those are excuses. They can absolutely dent your number. There's no question. Nobody's denying that. Obviously, that can dent your number. Some little, some huge. It is their responsibility to put the best product forward and make sure that your number isn't at an alarming low. And for too many weeks, months, and even years, this has been the case. I've been saying this for years now. Especially since Hemsley took control of this company. I told you guys, look at the number. This isn't good. Look at the metrics. Look at the statistics. This isn't good. This needs to be addressed. Here's a red flag. Hey, we're sounding the alarm. Nobody wanted to listen because Hunter Hearst Helmsley was smug. He let it all fly off his shoulder, and he continued to go to the podium and telling you how they're pulling in record revenue. They're sellouts upon sellouts. Business is booming, but come to find out, they're financial. Yeah, financially, things were booming all right. Saudi Arabia gives them a boatload of money. ESPN cuts them a fat check. Netflix cuts them a fat check. But look what happens when you don't produce a good product. Eventually, those same entities are going to come around and go, dude, what are you giving us? ESPN even had to tell them, dude, your shows are average. And they're on ESPN Unlimited. Netflix is furious. Dude, what are you doing? You're about to go under 1 million viewers from Monday Night Raw domestically. And you're really close from going under 2 million globally. Saudi Arabia wasn't even happy. They're like, we don't feel this is special enough. We need more. We'll give you a little more even. But we need more. We want Royal Rumbles. We even want WrestleMania. Financially, business was booming. Not for any of us. We're at home watching Jason Yeaterman and a few thousand people, especially the kids, yeeting in the arena. That's great. That's a nice little party for the arena. Everyone at home is like, oh, another 20 minutes of yeeting. We haven't seen this for the past 9 months. That's what we were saying come WrestleMania time. Watching everyone yeet for 20 minutes, how is that a good television show? Nobody thought of that. Hunter Hearst Helmsley's like, well, we put a focal group in the arenas, and they said that people like to yeet in the arenas. They said it was like a party in the arena. That's great. That's good for house shows. It's good for a couple of minutes on your television show while we're going to commercial. That doesn't mean you throw the dude into main events. He can call himself main. You don't put him in you don't book him to win the Royal Rumble. You don't have him choke out Gunther in 8 seconds and win the World Championship at WrestleMania. Because then you see the numbers free fall. And you have to yank the title off of him in 2 months. And here we are today. We don't even know what Jey Uso is. Is he face? Is he heel? He yeets. But then he's angry at everybody. And he's super kicking all the faces. He's spearing Roman Reigns. He's super kicking CM Punk and LA Knight. He's pissed off at the fans, right? He's grilling them this past week when they're all chanting CM Punk. But then he's yeeting with them. What are you doing? What is he? Oh, that's right. We said it from day one. That's not going to work. Jey Uso as a main eventer. What are you doing, dude? The live crowd yeets a little bit for 20. Okay. The audience at home? Ain't nobody looking at Jason Yeaterman as a main eventer. I know what we'll do. We'll put Maxine Dupree in there because Maxine Dupree, all the live audience likes to go, you got it, Maxine. You're getting better. You can do it, Maxine. She announces she's going to have a title match on Monday. And Australia just starts chanting, you deserve it. You deserve it to Maxine. Why does Maxine deserve a championship? What are you talking about? Maxine Dupree deserves a championship. But you see, she works hard, man. She's trying to get better at this wrestling thing, Beasley. What in the... Why would you learn, like, on... Wouldn't you get trained and then hit the field? Like, if you never took a snap of football in your life, you wouldn't just start an NFL game for my Green Bay Packers, right? They wouldn't just put you at QB1, would they? Jordan Love, you're out. Right? Dipshit Dugenheimer is taking your place. Dugenheimer has never played a snap of football. Not even high school, not even Pee-wee. You wouldn't see him in an NFL game. And you wouldn't go, everyone, take it easy on dipshit Dugenheimer at quarterback, all right? He's never played, but he's getting better. He's been practicing, you know. Let him just go easy on him, all right? I understand this is an NFL football game. I understand we're on live TV right now. But just take it easy on him. And by the way, appreciate how hard he's been working too at this, all right? So if he does suck, if he can't complete a just root him on, chant him on. You wouldn't see that, dude! If you go to a 5-star restaurant, I don't care if you go to a 1-star restaurant and you order a filet mignon. You don't want the guy who's never cooked a steak in his life back there cooking your steak. And if you ask for what? Medium well, and it comes out like a hockey puck. Are you going to go, oh, that's all right. Take my $100 anyway. And let me go tell him how he's doing awesome. Let me go tell the chef. I'll put that in air quote. The chef. Let me tell him he's doing awesome, by the way. My steak came back as a hockey puck. It's not edible. I pissed away $100, but... let me tell him he's doing a good job because I've been hearing that he's really been trying to get better at this. He wants to be good at this steak cooking thing. He's thinking maybe one day I can be a good chef. So let's put him back there right now and have him cook everybody's steak. I'm going to tell him he's doing great. In fact, if he gets Employee of the Month by the end of the week, I'm going to yell, you deserve it! A full week of handing out hockey pucks disguised as steak. But we'll say you deserve it. Employee of the Month. So no, the live crowd is all up in their feels. Go Maxine! You can do it, Maxine! Come on, guys! This is our time! You deserve it! Let's do all our chants. Meanwhile, just like Jason Yeaterman and so many others, the audience at home is watching what? Maxine Dupree take Becky Lynch to the limit? Becky Lynch, the audience is just supposed to forget all the wars that she's had with Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair and so many others. But Maxine, who's already beaten her a couple weeks ago, via count out. But even before that, almost tapped out Becky Lynch, almost pinned her 4 times. Couldn't even get a drop kick over Becky's knees. They're probably heavily rehearsing that. They're going to try that again, and this time you're going to see maybe that drop kick land underneath the boobage area of Becky Lynch. Oh, they're going to get that higher. And the audience at home is watching Maxine Dupree have a title match. And whether she wins it Monday or not, they're going to eventually probably put a title on her. For that moment for the live crowd to go, whoa, let's yell, you deserve it to Maxine. Because she's been working hard. She's trying to get better at this wrestling thing. Let's put a title on her. If you're wondering why the ratings are going backwards. But BC, I don't understand. They were all giddy and everybody was like, whoa, Maxine, in the live crowd. And the live crowd was yeeting BC. I don't, and they sing along with Seth BC. I don't understand how the ratings can be so ass backwards. I'm trying to tell you. Your focus group can't just go through the arena and tell you what's working and not. Vince Russo said it best. He said the number one thing you need to think about is your audience at home. And trust me, if you're doing things correctly, that's going to translate to what you're seeing in the arenas. Helmsley's a mark for all of this. A mark for himself more than anything else. But Paul Levesque McMahon is just a mark. He peeks through that curtain all the time and he sees the crowd and that's all he's booking for right there. Can't do that. Because the rest of the audience is going, this is a television show. What am I watching? I have to watch Yeaterman yeet for another 10, 15, 20 minutes? By this time, it's 10:30 at night. I'm watching Maxine Dupree. You got work in the morning. You got school in the morning. You got a lot to do, a lot of chores, a lot of commitments. You got that early morning meeting. You got all this stuff to do. You're going to watch Maxine Dupree awkwardly run around the ring in an unorthodox manner and try to do wrestling. Guys, I don't care if it sounds harsh. I am telling you, the ratings are low and I'm giving you reasons. These are just some. I'm just giving you some of the reasons, some of what you see on TV and you see the live audience. It looks like they're into it. So in case you're wondering, well, if they're into it, why are the ratings going backwards? I'm trying to tell you why. These are the people in the arenas that are willing to spend unacceptable amounts of money to go to these shows. Thousands of dollars. These kids are dragging their parents out. Their parents are willing to pay it. Some grown adults willing to pay thousands of dollars to show up to WWE to yell, this is awesome and you deserve it. They're showing up just to participate. They know the shows are garbage, but damn it, they paid a lot of money. They're going to start yelling words. I saw it in an AEW match last night. I'm going to go over this match a little bit more in depth too, because it is one of the things I caught on Dynamite. But I want to talk about it because there's a correlation, right? It was Sky Blue and Jamie Hayter. And it was a decent little match for what it was. Now, yeah, I'm very high on Sky Blue for many reasons. And Jamie Hayter, coming around to her. But it was a decent match. Nothing more than that. But not bad by any means. But there was many people in the audience in the middle of or toward the end of the match, I should say. And thankfully, it didn't catch on. Because I think most of those fans knew, like, come on, stop. That's getting carried away. But they tried to start a chant of this is awesome during Sky Blue and Jamie Hayter. Now, if you guys saw the match, you know, if you're being honest, you could be a diehard AEW fan if you're being honest. That was not awesome. At best, it was a decent match. And this is coming from someone who was high on Sky Blue. And at the end of this match, out of nowhere, some fans were just like, this is awesome. This is awesome. And thankfully, it didn't catch on. because I was like, what do you do, AEW fans? What are you doing? No, it's Jamie Hayter Sky Blue. They're showing up and they want to do, that's part of it now. Back in the day, you would show up and hope for a really good show, and I can't wait to see this wrestler, and this is going to happen. Now they're showing up and they're going, oh man, I can't wait to do all the chants, man. We're going to get the this is awesome. We're going to get the fight forever. We're going to get the you deserve it chant going. We're going to sing some wrestler names. This is why. If you're booking to pop the house, you're going to drop the TV audience. And that's what you're seeing. Keep parading Maxine out there. Keep parading Yetterman. Keep parading Sami Zayn's open challenges. And I'm telling you guys, this may sound hard to take in. I understand. I totally get that maybe you're a big Sami Zayn fan. Maybe you don't mind Jay Yetterman. Maybe Jay Uso's one of your favorites. That's awesome. You come here for factual pro wrestling discussion. I can't be any more vividly honest with you. These things all collectively is what is destroying the product. So let's put the train back on the track here. SmackDown 1.025. I could talk hours for this on this subject. Unfortunately, I have over the last several years. Because they aren't getting better. They don't understand. Now at least Netflix is demanding they understand. But when the person at the top is Hunter Hearst Helmsley and he's in charge, it's good luck. I don't think Netflix understands how he got that position. He's just a pro wrestler who kissed the right ass, Vince McMahon. That's what happened. And he had Vince take out Test in that storyline. He put himself in the story with Stephanie McMahon. This is, I say this all the time, but I think Netflix has to understand that this is what happened. He kissed the boss's ass. And then he married the boss's daughter. And now he's in charge of everything we see on TV. And when we, the fans, said, hold on, this isn't good. You have to get better. You have to be better. He told us we're not real fans and to fuck off. That's a true story, man. I say it all the time on this channel. And I say it all the time because I don't think people are fathoming it, right? Like you hear me say it all the time and you're just like, yeah, I hear you, BC. That is screwed up. Frickin' Helmsley. And then you just kind of move on. You really need to think about that. How he got to be the guy in charge. He is playing the role, because he's nowhere close to, but he's playing the role of Vince McMahon in WWE. And he got there because he kissed Vince's ass and married the boss's daughter, and he's the guy in charge of all of this, and he sucks. He sucks at what he does. His only claim to anything successful was NXT Black and Gold for a couple of years under William Regal and Dusty Rhodes, and on the penny dime and boatloads of cash that Vince McMahon put into it. Helmsley never put a dime into NXT. NXT. The day-to-day functional operations were William Regal, Dusty Rhodes, the promo classes, working with the talent on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis. Dusty Rhodes, William Regal. I don't know any other way to relay that message. That's what Netflix is finding out. That Hunter Hearst Helmsley is a fraud. I think many entities are starting to see that. Unfortunately, they find out too late. The numbers are so bad and advertisers no longer want to work with you. Advertisers are like, why would I don't need to spend this amount of money anymore for a show that doesn't even hit 1 million. That's what happens. If you're wondering why ratings matter in numbers, because it tells the advertisers where we should be putting our advertisements and how much we should be paying. This greatly affects these companies that have WWE programming, paid so much money. Why do you think Fox is pissed off at Sounds familiar, right? We're talking about Netflix being pissed off at WWE. ESPN's already calling them average. And they just started their relationship. Fox is pissed off. They said in their whole relationship, they have never seen a return on their investment for SmackDown. So when the new rights deal came up, they wanted no part of it. They kicked WWE to the curb. And he was honest, that president of Fox. He said, nope, we never saw a return on our investment. We couldn't get the right advertisers to pay what we were hoping for. Well, how do you think it's going to be now under $1 million? Because that's where they're headed. Do I think they'll see a little bounce back, at least a 1-2, 1-3? Yes. I just don't see how they can let this slip to $1 million yet. I still think early 2026 is when you're going to start to see, unfortunately, if they don't change their ways, that's when you're going to see a consistent viewership of under $1 million. And that's sad to even say. I'm trying to comprehend it as I say that. I have to believe they'll get back to at least a 1-2, 1-3. Can they get back to their 1-4, 1-5 old average, which is still really bad? I'm sure they're hoping for it. But not with this product. Not with the shows they're putting on. And I always say, people that say, oh man, yeah, the Blue brand just bad. Like Raw's at least good, but what's up with the Blue brand? Now, are you watching Raw? Do you wonder why Raw is also going backwards at an alarming rate? It's because Raw sucks too. I don't know where this illusion is that Raw is so much better than SmackDown. It sucks. And again, this is not opinion or hot take. The numbers back up everything that BC and the Amplified unit discuss on the daily. If the numbers weren't backing up my words, I'd just be wrong. Numbers are through the roof. Excitement and intrigue is there in the community. I don't know what BC's talking about. But no, we discussed this on the daily on the Amped Up show. And then the numbers come out and it shows you that the rest of the pro wrestling world felt the same way. Right? Instead of just, oh, that BC, he's crazy. BC's got that wild podcast. He's super amplified. He's so wild. Yes, all that may be true, but we're knowledgeable. Right? BC is smart, a mastermind of this pro wrestling thing. And if they would just listen more, they would get a better product, better results. It's not just a fan with a microphone and wrestling opinions. Of course, you throw that to the wayside. But when you have a unit this correct, this often, here's a wild concept. Maybe we were right all along. SmackDown, a new record low viewership this week. Let's switch it up. Let's talk some AEW. Was able to catch a little bit of Dynamite last night, or at least several segments of Dynamite, which is not always the case. Pretty sure that there are many that are most likely ripping this show apart. I've been saying this for months. For some reason, there is a portion of the audience, a portion of the fan base, a portion of the community. We'll just say that, a portion of the community that just loves ripping apart AEW shows. And that's fine if they truly think it's that bad. To just keep the same energy with WWE is what I would ask. Right? And usually you don't really see that. Because if you're claiming that AEW is that much worse than WWE, that's not being honest. Raw and SmackDown are complete chores to get through. They're exhausting to get through. So the claim that AEW Dynamite is worse is one thing. That much worse? Stop. But there's a portion of the community where it's not even a narrative anymore. It's just like, it's become a gimmick. It's become a shtick, right? And you even have talking heads in the community, right? They bought fancy equipment, maybe a little green screen. They're in front of a little green screen. Makes it look like they're on a nice tropical island, maybe. Maybe they're in a supermarket. They're in aisle 5 cutting a wrestling review. Got their fancy equipment and green screens. And they're shouting about how bad AEW is. Well, I just hope they're keeping the same energy with WWE. I hope that's the case. Because I can tell you, I wouldn't spend a damn second watching these idiots or listening to these idiots, because that's what it is. Keep the same energy. I watch these AEW shows. I gotta tell you, man, there is so much to work with. They're so far off still, no question. They still have so much they have to improve on. But they do so much. They do so much that is actually right. But unfortunately, it's the old saying, right? High tides raise all ships. WWE has to be that high tide right now. They're still the conglomerate, and they're doing so bad. So when WWE is doing this bad, unfortunately, everybody else is going to feel the same effect. Maybe even worse. I don't care if you're TNA, AEW, or even NXT. NXT's doing this thing with TNA. Guys, that showdown with TNA invading NXT couple of shows ago, guys, that pulled like a 600 some odd rating. Only 600,000 viewers caught that show. TNA invades NXT. Yeah, not good. AEW is trying to get back to even 500,000 viewership, preempted from their normal time slot last week. Not just that, forced to go against TNA invading NXT. They were struggling to get the 400,000 on that week. So, the industry right now, when Cody Rhodes tries to tell you it's the best era ever, and Rock is telling you how cool it is, and Hunter S. Helmsley is telling you how much money these companies are making, guys, that interest and intrigue, that captivating feel we used to get from pro wrestling, it's not there. So I will absolutely tell you, from watching the segments that I did see last night, AEW has a lot they have to improve on, no question. But they do a lot right. And that's why I say, if people are going out of the way to talk about how bad AEW is, they most likely are not watching the product, or they just have a gimmick or a shtick at this point. And that's just pathetic. I'd say the same thing if the roles were reversed, by the way. And people were just ripping WWE apart and giving AEW a complete pass. But what I can say about AEW is it doesn't feel like a chore to watch the show like it does WWE. There is just something so formulaic about a Raw and a SmackDown. Just everything about it just screams formulaic, redundant, and just exhausting. With AEW, there is a true sense that you could watch something you haven't seen before, or that you're probably going to see something cool. So let's just look at this Dynamite. The October 15th edition of Dynamite, which I was able to see several segments from, and the first segment I was able to catch, which is pretty cool. And they switched it up a little bit, right? From the jump, you had a sit-down interview with Renee Paquette backstage between Stat and Storm. And I love these. I've been saying for years, that's the type of interview you need to get people into a story. I said that with Jim Ross back in the Attitude Era, when he would have those sit-downs. I said it with Renee when she was with WWE. They need to utilize more of her in that way. Because Renee is perfect for those things, and you can really elevate stories. And, just as important, simultaneously, character development. That's when you really get to learn about the characters and really try to get invested into them. That's the chance for the characters to give you the chance to get invested in them. And then when Renee went to AEW, I said, all right, hopefully they utilize her like this. So I love these things. And we started right from the jump with a Toni Storm. As far as character development, I mean, she's just knocking it out of the park time and time again. Toni Storm was absolutely phenomenal. Stat, a little bit more reserved. A little bit more amplification in her. A little bit more believability would have been awesome. But she's speaking her truth in her realm. So I got to respect that. I'm sure that's why a lot of fans appreciate Stat. But Storm was absolutely in control of this face-to-face interview. And I like how at the end, they're standing up in each other's face. And Storm, I forgot which, was it Storm who said, "Is this interview over?" And Renee says, "Yes." And Storm says, "Good, meet me in the ring." And they both just start walking out to the ring. They get in the ring, and they're just like, "Let's go." And they just start brawling, just start beating on each other for like a couple minutes, and then just stop. Stat's on her knees, gives Storm the title, and says, "Hit me." You know Storm's not going to do that, so Storm just gives her a kiss on the forehead and walks off. Storm is in like lingerie, by the way. Like she just came from Victoria's Secret. Was it over the top? Was the audience like, "Whoa, what did we just see? That was amazing"? No. But it was interesting. It had BC catching the entire segment. I was able to catch Darby Allin and Mox's segments. I thought this was so well done. They had them in like a prison type setting, so they can speak to one another but not get physical. So it's like if you have a prisoner and a visitor, and there's like that glass that separates them. Sometimes you're talking on the phone. Sometimes there's like holes in the circle so you can actually just speak to them without a phone. I forgot if they had the phone or not. I think they did. But either way, it was one of those like prison visitor type situations, which was so well done. The lighting, the dialogue. Behind Darby appears the Riders, and they take out Darby, and they start slinging his dome piece face first into the glass that separated he and Mox. So after the 4, 5, 6 times of his dome piece smacking into the glass, you just start to see it all bloodied, and Darby finally falls to the floor. I thought that was so well done. And then later in the night, see, I love when they go back to things too, you know what I mean? Because you elevate the story as the show goes on. If you're doing it correctly, that's how it should be. So later in the night, Mox is in the middle of the ring. Darby comes kind of hobbling out, really selling the effects of that beating earlier, but ever so stubborn. Claudio comes flying in, takes him out. He keeps crawling. Wheeler, Utah, Pac is out there. Everybody's wailing away on Darby, but Darby keeps crawling to the ring to try to get to Mox. Not to beat Mox up, but just deliver a message of, hey, at any time, it's never too late to say I quit. And eventually, even after the beating, he makes his way to Mox. He crawls to his feet. He undoes the flag of AEW, which I believe is what he also put atop Mount Everest. I think it was Mount Everest that he climbed, and he waved at that AEW flag. That same flag he presented at the feet of Mox. It says, never too late to say I quit. And I tell you what I love about this too, and this is one of those things, okay, a little bit of a pat on the back here, man, because it's these type of scenarios that makes BC the best at what he does, doing this wrestling thing. Because these little details are not so little. Earlier in the night, Stat is on her knees, giving Toni Storm an open shot with that championship to the dome piece. But Toni doesn't take it. Toni just kisses her on the forehead and walks off. But Stat was allowing her to do it. And then you fast forward to later in the night. Same situation, different characters. Darby is on his knees, basically telling Mox, do what you have to do if you feel inclined to do such. And Mox doesn't let him off the hook like Toni Storm did for Statlander. Mox drops Darby Allin with that DDT. Drops him right on his dome piece. Mox took him up on that. So if you watch pro wrestling like BC, man, that's what I was thinking when Darby was in that position with Mox. I was thinking to earlier when Stat was in that position with Toni Storm, and I'm thinking, Mox ain't going to do the Toni Storm. Mox is going to drop you. And he did. And they sold it. They let it breathe. For an entire minute, 2 minutes, they were just on Darby, selling that DDT. They didn't just move on to the next. And then when they did finally go to commentary because they had to set up the next segment, guys, once Excalibur was done finishing up, selling the next segment, they went back to Darby selling the DDT. So Excalibur says what he has to say, and before they go to commercial, they go back to Darby, who is still selling. And at the tail end of the selling, he kind of starts to have this smile on his face. Like, I'm still rocking. You took your best, and it wasn't enough. But that's what you need in these type of segments. Let them breathe. Too often in pro wrestling, by often, I mean all the time, you have something cool, and they sit on it for like 5 seconds, and then wham, it's on to the next. Well, folks, we'll keep you updated on this situation, but taking you now to what's going on with John Cena. And it's like, no. Who cares about John Cena right now? This guy took a fireball to his face. So well done there. And then I was also able to catch a women's matchup between Sky Blue and Jamie Hayter. I've always been high on Sky Blue. It helps that I feel that Sky Blue is cute, hot, and sexy. But even Hayter's got an ass you can bounce quarters off of. Both sets of buns be bouncy. I'll just leave it at that. Speaking of bouncy, the AEW ring. Is it just basic, or does the AEW ring look like it's bouncier? Like it's a lot more loose than a lot of wrestling rings that I've seen. It just feels like when they're just walking on it, it's more like bouncy. And you can see the camera shake a lot when they're on the outside of that apron. And you just see the camera shake. I don't know. I noticed something last night. Maybe it was just a one-night thing where the ring was looser. It's rhetorical, by the way. It definitely was a looser ring. I just don't know if that was a one-off or is it usually like that. But anyway, everything in that match was extra bouncy. And they got some assets. So maybe that's another reason I was captivated by that. But it wasn't because the wrestling was supreme. I will tell you that. And as I said earlier, they tried to get a chant. A lot of fans, this is awesome during the match. It was not awesome, guys. I'm a big supporter of Sky Blue. I appreciate Jamie Hayter. It was a decent match. Absolutely it was. Awesome, man. We can't just take decent and start calling every match awesome. But I bring this matchup up because it was not a wasted match, which you see too often in pro wrestling. Just wrestling matches for the sake of wrestling matches. They have no meaning. You always have to turn something into something. And what I mean by that is even back in the day when you had jobber matches, right? The big boss man could be taking on Fuckwad Fred. It wouldn't matter because something was going to happen, right? Nails is going to attack him from in the middle of the match. Or the Mountie was going to come out after the match and confront Big Boss. Something was going to happen during or after that matchup. So after Sky Blue and Jamie Hayter defeats Sky Blue, Tekla shows up on their Tron. And Tekla cuts a promo on Jamie Hayter. Pretty decent, actually, to sell their match. I believe it's at Wrestle Dream. So that's what I mean about no wasted movements, no wasted matchups. Make sure that everything serves a purpose, even if it's in a roundabout way. Syndicate was losing on this show. I'm not a fan of that, but they've done this in the past for Jet Speed and ended up winning at the pay-per-view. So I think this is just a way for Syndicate to have a big Wrestle Dream. No harm, no foul, because people will be like, yeah, but they put over talents beforehand. But that was a weird thing that I caught. I don't like seeing that. I mean, it's Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin with MVP leading at the helm. I don't see them losing too often. Not like that. Not like they did last night. But again, no harm, no foul. I think they're just going to have a big or a Wrestle Dream. Brian on commentary, Brian Danielson, that's always hilarious to me. There's no BS in Brian Danielson. And that's a really good thing for us. if you're a commentator for a pro wrestling company, maybe not the best fit because they need you to embellish and oversell and over-dramatize, all that good stuff. And there's so many times where they'd go to commentary and Bryan Danielson just looks like a deer in headlights, man. I think a lot of it is he just wants to be in there. He's seeing it this close, and he wants to be in there. But, you know, I mean, this is a dude who's had a lot of concussions. And so, you know, when you're getting older, and so, like, when you're trying to think of the right words to say, it doesn't come out maybe as fast. So a lot of times last night, Excalibur and Tony Schiavone have to, like, kind of help him fill in the blanks. But all the best to him. It's just, it was wild because I'm looking at Bryan Danielson at commentary. Excalibur is saying all the words, which he usually does. Bryan Danielson is just staring straight like a deer in headlights. And I just can't help but, like, be like, wow, that's the dude that was on top of the wrestling world at WrestleMania 30. Winning the main event, hoisting up the championship at the height of the Yes movement, the whole world of wrestling in the palm of his hands. And just watching him as a commentator on Dynamite, it was just like, damn, man. That's wild. And that's really all I caught. I had a chance to see Samoa Joe. Was it the trios matchup, right? I think Samoa Joe won this match in front of Hangman Page. I don't care for 6-man tags. I think that this is what this was, or at least I thought it was. So I went about other business. So I didn't see that main event. I know at the end of the show, Hangman Page was, what was he doing? I don't know what he was doing. He was face to face with Samoa Joe. I don't think they got physical, and he ended up walking off. I don't know. It was a pretty simplistic finish, but that's because they were going into Collision. It was funny watching Hangman walk to the back and the Dynamite logo on the big Tron and everything turned to a Collision logo. And they faded to black for a second, came back, and it was a completely different show, Collision. So I was like, all right, that was funny. It brought me back to the Raw days back in the Monday Night Wars. A lot of you guys probably forgot this, or you just weren't around for it. But WWE used to have 2 separate shows for Raw. It was called Raw is War, and then it would turn into the War Zone. So when the ratings came out, you would see 2 different shows. WCW Nitro would have their own, but you would see Raw is War, and then you would see War Zone. So WWE tried to create their own little war between their 2 shows, you know? Is Raw is War going to beat Warzone, or did Warzone beat Raw is War? And USA Network loved it because it was 2 USA Network shows in the top 10, top 5, and even top 3. So it was just weird seeing, you know, Dynamite turn into Collision. I didn't see too much Collision, or I don't know if I saw any Collision. So I've said this for a long time. Whenever I catch a Collision, I feel Collision is sometimes AEW's best show of the week. I'm just not able to catch it a lot. But that is what I did see from Dynamite. So I still continue. I continue to say this because I continue to see this. Promise. There's a lot of promise in AEW. When I watch this product, there's so much potential there. And I really hope they find their way. I really do. You guys know my rule on the channel. I review shows only if they hit 1 million in viewership. Because, I mean, there has to be a reason to review it, right? There has to be enough people that care about it. So I've always had this rule on the channel where a show has to hit 1 million for me to review it. And I really hope that one day I can do that for Dynamite. I remember the longest time they were at 950. They were so close, and they were there for months. That was their average. So what I did, because I know so many of you guys were interested in my thoughts on it, and I watched these shows, I would do special reviews, and I would do full Dynamite reviews from time to time. But I can only do that from time to time. And if you're wondering, WWE, the rule applies for them absolutely. So if SmackDown goes under 1 million, we ain't reviewing it. Same with Raw. Bottom line. That'll be a wake-up call, huh? But I'm sure there'll be those in the community that just rip this show as if it truly is just the worst thing they've ever seen in wrestling. To which I would I would literally say, right, for years, what we've been told when we were ripping apart professional wrestling shows because they just suck, namely WWE. If you don't like it, don't watch. And it's like, well, we spent years as fans of professional wrestling, more specifically WWE, right? And so much money and time and effort was put into it. And we still to this day know how good it can and should be. So we're not just going to hand over our fan card because Hunter Hearst Helmsley said we're not real fans and to screw off. Fuck off. No, we're not just going to do that. We were fans, a lot of us, before Helmsley even stepped foot in a ring. So, when you've been a fan of something for that long and you know how good it was for years, and then you see it just absolutely fall apart, you don't just give up on that. But for individuals to constantly claim that AEW is so bad, the worst wrestling you've ever seen, then why keep watching? You can't say you have that same commitment to AEW that you did for WWE. AEW is only 7 years old. And for the last year plus, everyone's just talking about how supposedly bad it is. The worst thing in wrestling history is AEW, is what you're saying. So you literally can stop watching. It hasn't been around long enough for you to have that type of commitment to it. I can't stop watching it. It has to get better. And I know it can be better. This isn't it, man. What are you talking about? Maybe it's literally just not for you. Could it be? It's 7 years old. If you don't like it that much, and it hasn't even been around that long, maybe it's just not for you. Or maybe that's just the shtick. You just rip it apart, and that's your thing. Pretty sad. I'll tell you that much. AEW's problem from the jump, it's so much. It's a problem with pro wrestling. Every single day of the week, every night, there's a wrestling show. Every night. Doesn't matter to the company. Every night. And AEW tried to do too much too soon. In 2019, they debuted Dynamite. 2 years later, they debuted Rampage. That was in 2021. 2 years later, they debuted Collision, 2023. In 4 years, they had 3 shows. Do you guys realize that it took 6 years for WWE to get Smackdown after Raw? Raw was in 1993 it debuted. 6 years later, some would say at the peak of wrestling, or just coming off of it, that 97, 98. But in 99, Smackdown was debuted. Coming off of Attitude and about to enter Ruthless Aggression. And that's when they said, all right, we need a second show. 6 years after Raw, and during a peak. That's how you do business. Tony Khan came around and he started Dynamite when it wasn't necessarily at a peak. 2 years later, when Dynamite was struggling in the numbers, he decided another show was the answer. Rampage. 2 years after Dynamite, and they haven't even established Dynamite numbers. And then 2 years after Rampage, when Rampage is really struggling in the ratings, and it hurt Dynamite, they thought the answer was a third show. Let's add Collision. Is anybody surprised that all of them were struggling? Eventually, it got so bad, Rampage got Das Boot. 3 shows in 4 years for Tony Khan. In WWE, Monday Night Raw didn't debut till 93. That was a decade after Vince McMahon got his footing down. WWE started as a 1-hour show on a Saturday afternoon, and it was that way for years. Finally, a decade later, Vince McMahon debuted Raw. And after 6 years, and at the peak of wrestling, he finally debuted his second primetime show. Tony Khan, 3 primetime shows in 4 years. Tony Khan never let himself get footing on the industry. Get his footing down. He just thought he was Vince McMahon from the jump. And more is the answer. More shows, more talent. He has 175 people on his roster. That's not needed. It's too much at a time where wrestling is, unfortunately, sorry, not sorry, Rock, Cody, Helmsley. You want to lie to your audience, that's fine. Wrestling is not as hot, not nearly as hot as it once was. It's oversaturated, the entire market. And if the product is not going to be good while it's being oversaturated, recipe for disaster. So Tony Khan, absolutely. He's got a bunch of issues that he has to resolve to make AEW's product top notch. And it starts with less is more. Quality, not quantity. Less. He should have been focusing on Dynamite this entire 7-year run of AEW. Rampage and Collision should have not even been a thing. Again, 6 years before SmackDown debuted after Raw. And that was 10 years after Vince McMahon got his footing underneath him. We should just be talking about Dynamite right now. And maybe, no, there's no maybe. They'd be in a much better position. More. He bought another organization after he got AEW. But when I watch this show, I see promise and potential. Man, I wish I could say that when I watch a WWE show, man. But they all have one thing in common. They are far from where they should be. But that is my thoughts on Dynamite and just where AEW is right now as a company. They need to take a deep breath and just think this through. They're doing so much that is good. There's just a lot that needs to be corrected as well. And we'll wrap up this Amped Up for Thursday, the 16th of October, with this Andrade story, man. This is wild. Speaking of AEW and Dynamite, this dude showed up a few weeks ago. Attacked Kenny Omega, I believe. And then he hasn't been seen since. And there's all of these, oh boy, what did Andrade do now? Oh, he pissed off AEW. From what we're hearing is, this is not an AEW problem with Andrade or vice versa. And that WWE is still involved. And the latest we're hearing is that WWE did tap a 90-day no-compete onto Andrade. So however this dude was let go, Andrade was led to believe, or he led AEW to believe, there's no 90-day. And he debuted. Doesn't matter if you're wrestling or not. You can't be on the show, obviously. So I guess WWE tweaked out or just wants to make it more difficult for AEW. I doubt very much they want to screw with Andrade. Otherwise, they just wouldn't have let him go in the first place. But they take every chance they can get to screw with AEW. So if this is, there's no confirmation on this yet. It's just the latest report we're getting is that WWE is stopping Andrade from being used. And we believe it's a 90-day. But if that's the case, then wouldn't Andrade have known that? That's not just a minor detail when you leave the company and you're about to start at a new one. You might want to know if there's a 90-day. AEW has to do their due diligence. Did they just take the word of Andrade and that was it? And immediately just throw him on TV that quick? But the latest word we're getting is AEW. It's not there. They don't have an issue with Andrade. He's not being kept off TV because AEW is not happy. And Andrade didn't do anything supposedly wrong or get on the bad side of AEW. But he will be on AEW's bad side if Tony Khan thinks he lied to him. Told Tony Khan that there's no 90-day when there actually is. And in that case, did Andrade think that WWE wasn't going to be pissed? Oh, that knucklehead Andrade. Whatever, they can have him. No, that's not how WWE operates. But I think the bigger question is, does it even matter? It's Andrade. I mean, I feel like we're playing this facade like Andrade is one of the best wrestlers we've ever seen. And I don't just mean his wrestling skills when the bell rings, guys. There's no shortage of that. I understand he's a good wrestler and he can put on good wrestling matches. I get that, trust me. There's no shortage of that. Speedball Mike Bailey can put on good wrestling matches. You probably forgot because it's been years since he's been anything relevant, but Tozawa can put on good wrestling matches. That's not what we're talking about. What is jumping off the TV screen? What's jumping off the page? What are we caring about? What has Andrade really been involved in the past 5 years? AEW and WWE. And don't just start shouting out stories he was in, if there was a couple. Well, basically, when he was in AEW, he did do the... None of it's memorable. He's jumping back and forth with these companies, playing Frogger like he's going across the street and then back to the other side, and then back to the other side. Tag, you're it. Look at me, I'm in WWE. Now look, I'm in AEW. Oh, back to WWE. Psych, just kidding. Back to AEW. It's like a game to this dude. And now with this drama, and there was drama when he was with WWE. Some of that involved, obviously, Charlotte Flair. But at what point is it even worth it? And we keep talking about it like this dude is a top star. He's Steve Austin, The Rock, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Andrade. All these companies always take him back like he's this hot prospect. I get he can wrestle. But at what point is it just enough? Like, it's not even worth it. No, maybe in the future we'll bring you in, man. You know, get a good gimmick, get that personality and charisma on the indies, maybe get a good following there, and maybe we'll bring you back. But these companies jump to bring them back every time. Say this all the time about like Jeff Jarrett. Like Jeff Jarrett, everybody would hire this guy. I like Jeff Jarrett, I do. The dude is a mid-carder. He is. He tried in the TNA when he formed it in GFW, I think it was. You know, when he formed his own companies and tried to be the guy. Obviously, that didn't even work. Vince Russo tried to make him the guy in WCW. That obviously failed. He's Jeff Jarrett. He's a mid-carder. That's okay. You can make a really good career as a mid-carder. Jey Uso can be that if they just allow him to be. Don't force him as a main eventer because it ain't going to be bought by your audience. When the yeeting stops, we're looking at Jey Uso. We understand he's a mid-carder. You can't fabricate anything else. Jeff Jarrett, when the bell rings, or before the bell, doesn't matter, he's a mid-carder. You can't fabricate anything else. But these companies would bring him back. I remember he screwed over WWE to go to AEW recently, right? When he did go. He had just got this new position. He was like one of the head guys for this is when they were doing house shows. And he became the guy. They gave Jeff Jarrett a huge position. I was thinking, why did WWE even bring him back? He's burned that bridge 4 different times. And then he did it again. AEW offered him a deal. He wasn't binded by WWE for some reason. And he left. And I can't help but think, how does Jeff Jarrett always get Maria Kanellis? Maria Kanellis always seems to find AEW, WWE a second. I'm like, it's Maria Kanellis. What? How do these people keep getting these positions? And I'm starting to add Andrade to this. It's wild to me. If something just doesn't work, it just doesn't work. I'm not saying that's just it for all of time, but let them develop something huge on their own and come back with more to offer. That is Amped Up. Thursday, the 16th of October of the year 2025. Damn, what a show! That was a good one. Until next time, and there will be that next time, unit. PC saying check you. Salute.